Hey guys, this is Joe. Today I want to introduce you to our partner Vanta. Achieving ISO 27001 or SOC 2 compliance can unlock major growth for your company and build customer trust, but the process can be time intense and costly. Vanta automates compliance, getting your audit ready quickly and saving up to 85% of associated costs. And Vanta scales with your business, helping you enter new markets. Join 7,000 global companies like Atlassian, Flow Health, and Quora that trust Vanta. Claim 20% off Vanta at vanta.com/startupradio. That's vanta.com, spelled vanta.com/startupradio.
Welcome to Startuprad.io, your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Joe from Startuprad.io, your startup podcast and YouTube blog from Germany, bringing you today another interview. But this time I do have guests, yes, plural, from Austria. At first, I would like to welcome Robert. Grüß dich.
Servus and hello. Thanks for having me today.
You are very welcome. And we do have, since we're looking at Austria today, we do have a very special situation because you are, what is your official title? Country CEO, Austria?
Yeah, country manager, managing director, depends on how you ask. But it's country manager for Schüttflix Austria, a subsidiary of Schüttflix Germany.
And for everybody who doesn't understand, Schütt is basically pouring out bulk goods, Schütten. And Flix may suggest to do it a little bit faster. And yes, Schütt is with an umlaut for all the American audience. It's the U with the two dots on it. Exactly. The company was originally started in Gütersloh, which is not necessarily known either for its construction industry nor for its startup hub importance. Can you talk a little bit about why a former Microsoft logistics director in a model basically started the company there? Yeah, I know Mr. Mana, she joined later, but basically that's the story everybody's talking about.
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me, it's a little bit more special than maybe for other colleagues, since I'm from Gütersloh as well. I'm born and raised there, finished my school there. Exactly where, like 25 years later, Schüttflix would be founded. And to be honest, at the time I finished school, I wasn't too sure about having a digital company that potentially become a unicorn someday from my hometown. But yeah, I mean, Gütersloh is a very special place in Westphalia, because a lot of companies that are basically European-wide known, like Bertelsmann, Miele, Klaas, etc., they all come from there. And also Hagedorn. Hagedorn is one of the largest construction companies in Germany, and they have their headquarters there as well. So Christian, our founder, knew Thomas Hagedorn, and they are basically our two co-founders. And they met in Gütersloh. Christian was working for Avato, the logistics over there, before going to Microsoft. So that's the connection with Gütersloh.
I see. And he told in an interview, Christian, that he was in charge at logistics at Microsoft because they do ship a lot of physical items. Think in the past Windows phones, but also laptops and so on and so forth. So they also do have, or they did have a lot of logistics going on there, and he was their director. And he basically came back, founded Schüttflix. We later get into the economics. In 2021, he saw in an interview the opportunity to become a unicorn one day. Let's see where this is going. Yeah. But first, let's talk a little bit about you here. I see you've done, like I have, an apprenticeship at the thrift organization, Sparkasse. That's usually not the start of a construction career, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So as I said, I finished my school in Gütersloh, and at that point, I wasn't too sure what to study one day. I always knew I wanted to study, and then I started my apprenticeship at this local bank, Sparkasse in Gütersloh, and yeah, I oftentimes joke about this right now as well, but for me, I noticed really quickly this isn't the thing I wanted to do all my life, but I've learned a lot of really important things there. Speaking to people from all different backgrounds and areas, speaking about money isn't the typical German thing as well. Doing sales, understanding insurances, money products, etc. So that helped me a lot for me personally. But as I said, I noticed really quickly this isn't the thing I wanted to do all my life. But yeah, my mother always said we don't quit things easily. So I finished my apprenticeship and then went on.
To study, yeah, I see. You also studied in Vienna already, but what I found interesting, you worked for Bertelsmann, where one of the founders, Christian, has been working, and you interned there in New York City and Berlin. Did you already know Christian from then?
No, actually not. I mean, it's quite funny that like a lot of people from our management team have worked for Bertelsmann or better said Avato in the past, but I met Christian. I mean, I heard about him. Gütersloh isn't that big, but the only person I knew back then from Bertelsmann was Nils Klose, or general manager in Germany. I knew him, but Nils, Christian, Magda, and Jan, the other Bertelsmann people, basically in our management team, I met when I started at Schüttflix.
I see. And then you also interned in another media company, Bauer Media. At this point, it necessarily did not look like a typical construction career. And then, for whatever reason, bam, you started Schüttflix. Can you take us through this hoop to this jump in your CV? What made you start there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Bertelsmann was quite a cool experience for me. I mean, to give you some context, I think I finished my apprenticeship end of March, and I started in New York City for Bertelsmann on the 1st of April that year. So that was like a real eye opener for me. See and work with those different people. Get to learn this hustle culture over there, and I had the real luck in my life to meet people and bosses I worked for that it in retrospect, it felt like it was their mission to develop me and make me learn how to think and approach problems instead of like just checking tasks. And it was the same at Bauer Media Group, basically. I went there because I always wanted to work for my boss, who was at that time Carsten Schicker there. I knew him from Bertelsmann as well. And to be honest, I was pretty clear to me that I go in that direction as well. I really liked the media environment, liked everything we worked on, all the projects. And at the same time, I finished my studies in Vienna. And from one day to the other, I think we all remember the Corona pandemic came into our lives. Was pretty crazy time here in Vienna, because I'm not quite sure if all of us remember, but in the first couple of weeks, we thought that maybe this is an Austria thing, because it came from like all the ski resorts. And basically life shut down here in Austria way quicker than in Germany. So what I did was I got back to my hometown, Gütersloh, and I was waiting there for it to be over. At that point, no one knew there would be like 3 years and change our lives forever. And at that time, I really had, all my plans were crossed at that time. So Niels Klose at that time went from his former job to Schüttflix. We always stayed in contact, and he was like, okay, then let's have some talk. Maybe you can work here till everything is over, because you have to know that at that point I had everything set up for my master's degree in Antwerp, and I definitely wanted to go there. It was a cool program, nice city. I like it there a lot. So we had some talks, and we said, okay, let's do this until your studies in Antwerp begin. I basically had no role description at that point. I just helped Niels with the first tasks. Everything was like in the first phase of scale up. So that's my entry into the construction and Schüttflix world. It wasn't clear at that point that I would end up there like for 3.5 to 4 years now.
I see. What do you like about the construction industry?
Definitely the hands-on mentality. So when I started my different internships, for example, I went to Liverpool to work at the press there. Had a really cool time. Liked the people there, but the most I liked there was to get my hands dirty in the whole process, and that's basically the same in the construction business. When I think of like typical days, there is none here. A couple of months ago, I was at a construction site that worked all night because they had to build concrete, and like a couple of hours after arriving there, I was in my yellow construction site jacket with my helmet on, and I helped them to remove the fences there. There is no typical day in the construction industry. It's hands-on mentality. It's easy. Everything relies on words. So I really like that about my industry here.
Talking about the industry, I have some data from your founder from another interview that he gave. He said there are 1.5 times more trucks used to transport bulk goods than there are taxis in Germany. And each of those trucks makes 6 times more revenue each day. 6 times more revenue each day than a taxi, a cab. Are those economics roughly the same in Austria?
I haven't checked the numbers lately, but that's my latest point of information. I think a taxi approximately makes like 200 to 250 euros revenue per day. Might have increased a little bit, but it's approximately factor or times 6 in all of our markets, I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, what made Christian start Schüttflix is he said in one interview that there's no real big player in shipping like all those bulk goods, where admittedly the biggest user, because there are other bulk goods, but the biggest user is the construction industry. Will you also agree to that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the founding story of Christian, how he founded Schüttflix or came up with the idea is pretty cool. I think he talked about that several of times, but he has a farm basically close to Gütersloh, and when you have such a farm, you need bulk goods for renovations or for a playground for your kids and all that stuff. And the market is super regional and super fragmented. So it's for an average person, it's quite tough to get information and good prices for bulk materials. So yeah, the story still works, is intact. So yeah, I would say that's correct.
I see. First question is, you're also an asset light business model. You're more into the digital logistics, more like an Uber or Flixbus.
Yeah, exactly. So Schüttflix is 100% asset light. Schüttflix is basically just the frame to enable those kind of businesses. We have people that need building materials, so our clients. Then we have the forwarders, we have the suppliers. Since like last 2 years, we have our own disposal products. So those disposal companies came into the mix as well. But Schüttflix is always the central construction partner. So we are basically in the middle of this triangle, and we connect those people on one construction site.
Would you consider yourself a competitor of guys like Uber Freight or Sender?
I mean, competitor is a huge word, but we live and work in the same environment, basically, where we ship freight via trucks, trains, whatever, boats. But they are not into bulk material that much. So basically, to come back to the first question, I think it's still the same as Christian said. There is no real competitor in this business, but there are other digital companies like the ones you said in our environment.
And so far, the investors really like your business model. I've seen you raised more than 100 million US dollars from 13 investors, according to Crunchbase. Just recently, I think you could call it a second closing of Series A with 45 million euros disclosed in summer 2023. What I saw there is one of the investors is Strabag. Did you get the Austria connection there, or is there a different story how the business in Austria started? And also, did it start with you?
That's basically a two-parter in my answer. So, Strabag, of course, is an important player, but the Austria connection originally starts way before that, since one of our first venture capitalist strategic partners was Speed Invest from Austria. And funny enough, now they sit in the same building as we do, and that's pretty cool because we have the close contact with our partner there. So that's basically the first Austria connection we made. A couple of years later, Strabag came onto our investors board. What to say about Strabag? Biggest construction enterprise basically in Europe. Huge player, big help, of course. And before coming to the story how we got into Austria, I just have to say we have another Austrian partner now as well with LKW Walter, one of the biggest forwarders in Austria or Europe. So our board is full of Austrian people at the moment, and that's pretty cool for me in my role.
What just came to mind was we may add that Strabag is one of the largest construction companies in Europe. Yes, they're listed. Yes, but they're headquartered in Vienna. That's completely what we forgot to say for everybody who doesn't know the company. That's why I made this connection. Yeah, go ahead with how you came to Austria, like in terms of Schüttflix.
Yeah. So at one point, roughly 2.5 years ago, management made the decision to go into 3 more markets. And whenever we talked about that at that time, from a company that is basically from the western part of Germany, everyone was talking about maybe the Netherlands or Belgium, because it's way closer to our core business at that time. But when you check the numbers and check our business and understand our business, what makes really fun are those big infrastructure projects and EU projects, etc., etc. And they were way more in the eastern part, so in Poland, Czech Republic, and Austria. And Strabag is a big player on the market. It definitely helped that they are from here, they know the market, and they were huge support when going to Austria. Definitely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you see the business in Austria? Is it harder than in Germany? Is it different?
Harder is definitely the wrong word. It's different, of course, but the huge difference comes from geography in Austria. Austria is way more richer on primary sources. So they have all the mountains, basically, easy spoken. They have the rivers and the seas, and that's basically where primary material like sand, crushed stone, and gravel come from. So in Germany, from a geography point, you have in the north, you have originally a lot of sand, and in the south, where the mountains begin, or in the middle as well, you have a lot of crushed stone, and that develops into, in Germany, having a lot of retailers that basically are pins between those areas, because what they do is they buy material in huge stock and they put it onto their place and sell it from there. In Austria, we don't have that structure, because primary material, so everything that comes naturally, is way more accessible than in Germany. So that makes it just a little different. And when you look at a map of Austria, the eastern part, so around Vienna basically, and Styria, is way flatter than the western part. So that's naturally where we started, because in the western part, and I hope all my fellow Austrians understand what I mean, is that basically on the right side of the street are mountains, on the left side on the street are mountains, and the street is connecting like two villages. So it's way tougher to get like a platform and a marketplace going in that region.
Yes, and as you've been talking about the Alps, not only is the street meandering between mountains, it's also a much higher altitude, which also means there will be a lot of snow and ice in the winter. Before we talked, he said, we don't have 12 months of construction business here in Austria for the most part. It's more like 7 or 8 months, right?
Yeah. I mean, Austria is a beautiful country, and basically you have 12 months of nice climate, whatever you're looking for. It's warm right now. In the winter, you have like the ski resorts in the western part, huge mountain bike and hiking scene as well. Beautiful. But when it comes to business, especially in our business, it's quite different, because, for example, from January to basically the beginning of April, it's too cold to have construction sites with concrete or asphalt, for example. So all those plants open in the beginning of April to mid-April. So for the first 4 months of the year, we have to do other business than our core business. And that's basically the same at the end of the year, because from November to December, it's so cold again that all those construction sites stop. So basically we have like 7 to 8 months of real business.
And what kind of business do you do outside your normal business? I'm curious.
We are doing a lot. We are doing a lot, actually. Just yesterday I had a request from one of our partners that ships sherry pits. So from one side of the country to the other. We do a lot of disposal work for the farmers, because they get prepare their fields for the summer. So basically we ship everything that fits into a truck. We have solutions for that as well. But like our core business starts then at March, April, I would say.
You said there is more availability of the goods. The logistics are a little bit more complicated, at least for a logistics company. And I was wondering, do you also sell the same goods? Is the market the same, or is there also a difference?
I would say it's the same. I mean, due to having regional differences, as explained in Germany, the German market is a little bit further, I would say, with recycling material. So whenever you don't have sand, you are able to use, if allowed on that construction project, recycling material. In Austria, there isn't that much need for recycling material at this point. but we will get there in terms of like circular economy. We will have to improve that and reuse material. But at the end of the day, it's the same materials we do in Germany or Czech Republic or Poland, I would say.
I see. So how do you like Austria, and can you see yourself staying here for a few more years?
I mean, the fact that I came back here speaks for itself, I would say. I really like the country. I like the people. Having done my studies here helps me a lot at this time. Maybe just to tell a little anecdote, in my first week I went to one of our partners in the north. We had a really good talk about business, and in the moment we said goodbye, he was like, and by the way, when you come next time, would be cool if you bring somebody who speaks all language. And I was like, okay,
What?
nice to meet you as well. But that's not even 1% of the people I talk to. A lot of people most people are really open, and it makes a lot of fun working here. I like the city, especially Vienna is one of the nicest cities, especially to live in the summer and spring. So yeah, nothing to complain about, as we say in Westphalia.
But it's also a beautiful city in the winter, especially for the Christmas markets. I know, personal experience. Also, of course, we can't get around this. We have to tell all the people like Sachertorte. Sacher is still up and around in Vienna, as well as Fliegelmüller, where you get Wiener Schnitzel.
Yes. Wouldn't say you spit the secrets of the best places, but they do it.
That hurts.
But they do it for nearly 100 years, I would say, and that they do it for a reason. So of course, Hotel Sacher with the Sachertorte, go to Schnitzel, can't get around it. Käsenockerl, cheese pasta basically. Go to the Naschmarkt, enjoy summer, spring, winter on the Christmas markets. Yeah, it's not too bad over here.
One of the hidden gems for me was in my summer trip was Manner. That's a company that produces some sweets, sometimes of waffles, but you can also go there in very old, very, very nice, building, very nice, flagship store. And, you can get there a lot of sweet treats. Love it.
A lot of sweet treats and cool merchandise as well. For everyone who remembers those 2000 ski jumpers, they had all those helmets in the light pink with Manner on it, and all the caps. So that as well, to get some retro feeling as well.
That sounds pretty good. We've talked highly about Austria. Where do you see a few areas where they can improve, maybe outside of the weather and the geography of the country?
I mean, like all the typical facts about Austria, like housing market, it's top notch in Europe, I would say. Speaking from my point of view, it's digitization in the construction industry, of course, but that's not an Austria thing. But digitization in general, I think that's a thing. Austria, Germany, basically Central Europe can improve. But I think we're on a good way. I've had some really good talks with the Austrian Business Association and also some politicians on that. So we are getting there.
How many partners do you already have in Austria? You already talked highly about Strabag. You talked about Speed Invest, but apparently they're not in construction. They're VC. Anyone else?
Yeah. So in Austria, just to give you some perspective on the numbers, globally, Schüttflix has about 12,000 partners at the moment on our marketplace. Austria, about 550, I would say. So that's basically the factor.
Yeah, you're just getting started.
Yeah, we are getting started. I mean, the country is times smaller, different population. I mean, 8 million people live here, so basically factor 10, I would say. But we are getting there. The market is open for having Schüttflix. That's cool. And for me, it's not even the amount of partners that stands out. It's the amount of trucks. There are over 1,000 trucks driving for Schüttflix at the moment in Austria, and that's such a huge capacity of all the freight markets. So, and as you said, we are getting started. It's getting more trucks and partners every day. That's our mission. Yeah.
I see. And to join your mission, are you currently hiring in Austria and or Germany, Poland? I do believe you're also in Slovakia?
No, Slovakia not. Czech Republic and Poland.
Czech Republic. Mm-hmm.
I would say we are always hiring, always looking for talent. I mean, I can speak for Austria, but check our career websites on our website. There are plenty of open vacancies. Go there. Would be great for Austria. I mean, you have to understand Schüttflix as a company. In Austria, we have our operations team and sales experts, but like all those enabler functions like product and tech, HR, marketing, etc., BI team, data analytics, they all sit in Germany for all the 4 markets. So check the website.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Everybody who'd like to know more, you can go down here in the show notes. There will be a link to our, to your career website and all the links we talked about. And, do you know what? Let's go over to the Austrian Business Administration and talk with them what they think they have to offer, for startups who want to relocate to Austria.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Hey guys, hello and welcome. This is Joe with the second part of the interview with ABA, the Austrian Business Administration. This time I actually welcome somebody from ABA here. Hey Jan, how you doing?
Hi, Joe. Thanks a lot for inviting me. Really looking forward to this session, and thanks for featuring Austria and our startup ecosystem.
Sure, totally my pleasure. Since this is kind of an addendum to the Schüttflix interview, we'll cut a little bit short your introduction and get to the most important points. But what I found very interesting, you studied in Dresden, and as we discussed a pre-interview, in fake New Zealand. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, fake New Zealand is a hidden gem. It's actually the Hogeschool Zeeland, which is in the Netherlands, worth a trip, beautiful students' village at the coastal side. But I had a chance to go to New Zealand a little bit later and was totally impressed by it. It seems to be the capital of extreme sports, and not only a gem when it comes to the nature, a little bit like Europe compressed in one or 2 islands actually. No, but fake New Zealand. If anybody's interested, just go to the Netherlands and look for the Hogeschool Zeeland in Vlissingen. Definitely worth a trip.
Then, how did you end up in Vienna? I've seen you held a lot of interesting positions, many related to foreign investments, for example, for the government of Thailand, the United Kingdom, and the USA. How did you end up in foreign investments?
Yeah, all right. So the journey from Dresden to fake New Zealand went then on to Turkey, to Australia, New Zealand, and Berlin. And my very first job then was in Vienna. I chose Vienna because it was a capital or German-speaking capital with more than 1 million inhabitants, nice cultural offer, and extremely high living quality. And I straightforward then was working on the government side for Team Thailand, for the Brits, but also the Americans during times with the Brits during Brexit, but also with the Americans when basically COVID locked us all in. It was super exciting time supporting Austrian companies going across the channel, but also across the ocean. And the work there was for me really a cultural, brought me to the next level on an intercultural level, especially with the Thais, but also working with Americans and the Brits has been a very exciting time because there's a lot of positive energy, especially working with Americans. And with this background, now in total 20 years in international business, I decided to go on my next chapter then with ABA.
And most of the positions you held have actually been in Vienna, because Vienna is kind of a hub for international relations.
Yes.
The United Nations are there and a lot of other international institutions, right?
Yes, we have not only the UN here, we have also OPEC based out of here. We have a lot of international congresses taking place. In the past, Austria was always a kind of a neutral place to meet. A lot of international political negotiations happened here. And it's still kind of a bridge between within Europe when you look further east or southeast and Western Europe. And this makes it super exciting because Vienna is also kind of a little bit a magnet for talent from all over the region. And you can feel it. You see it in the streets. You see it also when you work with businesses. A lot of the Austrian businesses are heavily involved, especially in Central and Eastern Europe.
And this has quite a history. When you look on Wikipedia for the Treaty of Vienna, you see treaties going back to 1606 and as recently as 2015 on the Iran nuclear deal framework. So yes. It has quite a history of international relations. And now you are working for the Austrian Business Administration. Can you talk about your current duties? Because I saw that you basically focus there on three pieces from the headlines: invest in Austria, work in Austria, and film in Austria.
Yeah, that's
the last one, especially curious.
That's the most exciting one, of course. And sorry, just to correct a little bit, it's the Austrian Business Agency, but we are part of the administration. That's absolutely correct. And yeah, we have three main pillars. The most exciting one is the film in Austria. It's about getting international film productions to Austria. So that we have the next James Bond or even Tatort from the German-speaking region filmed here in Austria. It's a quite small department, but an important one. And we just recently launched a new funding program and basically are flooded with requests of Netflix series that are filmed here, but also really, really big international movie programs that are just in Schönbrunn. We had a great series that was completed. And then we take care of talent. It's our work in Austria, getting international talent to Austria, supporting companies to grow further, because as we are aware, talent is not always easy to find. So we focus on that topic especially. And the last chapter, that's basically where I'm active in. It's called Invest in Austria. It's supporting international companies that are hungry and want to expand to Austria. And there I'm in the team. We are regional teams. I'm leading the German team. It's six of us taking care of around 200 expansion projects every year, from small to medium-sized companies to global players, but also especially taking care of startups that are interested to come to Austria.
We will, of course, talk about that. But for everybody who's curious, I know that we are heard in more than 100 countries on a regular basis. We link down here in the show notes the Work in Austria website if you're curious to be working in Austria.
It's definitely, maybe just adding one, it's dangerous to move to Vienna. I decided to come here 17 years ago, and I only wanted to stay for 1 year. And now it's 17 years later, and it's especially hard to get or leave Vienna if you look at the quality of living index. I stopped here. If you Google it, you will see that Vienna has been number one since 11 years now. I stopped counting. and the 6 years before that time, it was not like hell. It's really a great place to stay a little bit longer.
I see. Talking about Vienna, of course, the country has more beautiful cities. Salzburg comes to mind. But can you talk a little bit about Vienna? Because a lot of the people who are listening to this on a regular basis, I strongly recommend Vienna in the summer as well as in the winter for the Christmas markets and so on and so forth.
Yeah, actually, the only time, or there are several times when it's getting really busy, and that's of course most of the time during the touristy season, especially during Christmas. And so I would prefer to come to Vienna probably around springtime, or what we also have coming up. It's now in the beginning of June, 3rd to 9th of June. We have a great festival taking place in Vienna, the Vienna Up. It's definitely worth coming over. But most of my friends are here during spring or summertime. Wintertime you can come, but I can promise you it will get busy. We have more than 20 Christmas markets catering your needs. And so you get a bit of Christmas Christmas atmosphere. Although snow is high on the wish list, we cannot always guarantee.
Not always guaranteed. We've been talking about startups and scale-ups, and that's the reason you are here. Talk a little bit about what ABBA, the Austrian Business Agency, part of the Austrian Business Administration, sorry, that confused me a little bit. What incentives does Austria offer for digital companies, particular in terms of taxation and startup support programs?
Sure, absolutely. Just in one sentence, what we do, and then I go give you a general overview. So ABA offers anything from a very early stage market research, funding and tax advice, finding employee number one, finding a co-working space, and basically getting started. Yeah, also supporting business development and so on. That's completely free of charge. But overall, Austria offers, I must say, an excellent early stage, let's say pre-seed or seed funding programs and incubators. So that's very likely unseen in any other country in Europe, especially in this very early stage. Yeah. There are a wide range of programs that are on a national level, but also on a federal level. So especially, for example, in Vienna. And what is really good news at the beginning of this year, and actually the startup community was fighting for this around 6 years, is that we have a new legal entity form. It's called the Flexco. In a summary, the Flexco offers a quite modern legal framework that caters to the needs of startups, offers more flexibility than a classical limited. It simplifies capital requirements, or if you want to have special share structures, employees should get some shares of your newly incorporated company, and it's relatively easy to set up, and also from the capital that is involved, very let's say cost efficient, so to say. On the tax end, there was a tax reformation, so to say, where we lowered the corporate tax from 25 to 23%. This is especially, for example, compared to Germany, where there's also some additional business taxes, very competitive. And additionally to that, I must say we have a couple of startup hubs now. Next to Vienna, I must mention Linz is really booming, as well as Tyrol, not only known for their Alps, but also in Innsbruck, a very lively startup scene. Same is true for Styria and Graz.
Can you talk a little bit about the digital infrastructure? Because we've been talking with Schüttflix, and basically they said, well, if you deliver a lot of stuff high up in the Alps and there is snow, basically we have 7, best case 8-month season here. But if you're talking about digital products, as long as you have a reliable digital infrastructure, that's a completely different ballgame.
Absolutely. And I'm absolutely aware that especially the Nordic countries are doing a very good job on this point. But Austria is, I must say, is following closely. So their digital infrastructure in Austria is robust. It's very strong, focusing on high-speed internet, but also 5G technology, and a very, let's say, easy and affordable access, not only for businesses, but also, of course, for people living in Austria. So over the last years, there has been a strong focus on the expansion of a very powerful broadband internet nationwide. And as Austria, as you already mentioned, it's an alpine country. And the aim was to become a 5G pilot country in Europe, which included a lot of government funding for infrastructure development in areas, especially where the private sector investment was not economically viable. So if you look all at the mountain villages or very remote areas, I must say I never have any problems with a signal traveling by train across Austria, so that I can work quite easily, have my video calls, which is not always the case in Europe. And I must say they seem to have done a pretty decent job.
Personally, I find this as well. And you've been talking about like the co-working spaces. Mm-hmm. I found more than 30 in Vienna alone, which is, by the way, a very lovely city. And you talked about like first employee business development. can you talk a little bit about the environment for digital entrepreneurship? For example, for all the people not from Europe, I'm sure we need to talk about that you're part of the European Union and that all the European Union regulations basically apply here.
Yes, yeah, that's for sure. Of course, there are some national legislation which is going a bit further in detail. But especially, for example, if you're a German startup considering to come to Austria, most of the regulation will apply that you know already from your home country. There are specific sectors, especially, for example, the healthcare industry, where you need to dig a bit deeper, but where we are more than happy to identify any differences that may occur. And we have a very international startup scene, especially in Vienna, as it is especially a magnet for Central Europeans that tend to move to Vienna, and which helps us also to have a very diverse talent pool here. And a lot of coders, developers from these countries moved over. But of course, there's some European regulation, but we, in special cases in the finance sector and the healthcare sector, it's good to have a first check with us if there's anything that needs to be tailored to the market. We are in the process right now. I have 2 projects where the companies start in Austria, but build or adjust their products according to the Austrian needs, as there are some small adjustments when it comes on the accounting level, for example. So there's some tailoring is needed. Austrians love it when their product is tailored to the Austrian market in a way that often it's underestimated. People say, okay, Austria, probably exactly the same as in Germany. But I just can say from experience, the more you tailor or the more you speak the language of the Austrians, and there are more than 10,000 different words that are different than German to the German original, so to say. The more that you speak the local language, so to say, that the easier it will get to build strong relationships. And can just underline that networking in a small country is even more important than in a bigger market.
Yes, and when I was going through what people know from Austria, of course, Sacher, Wiener Schnitzel, Manna, yes. the waffles, and so on and so forth came to mind, but also N26 was originally founded in Vienna. I also had the pleasure to interview them back in Germany in 2015. Ooh, that was way back in the days. Last year, I interviewed a unicorn from Austria called Refurb with Kilian. Plus, we should mention, I'm not sure if they would classify themselves as a startup, but the company Auphonic is essential to Startup Radio. Without them, our sound would not be that good. They are amazing.
Great. Yeah. I just yesterday had my Mannerschnitte, and 2 months ago I bought a refurb laptop, which made me very happy. And yeah, thanks for summarizing this. Also with Schüttflix, we had a really good relationship and supported them on their journey here in Austria. And certainly it won't be the last unicorn, and there's quite some in the pipeline. Maybe one or the other knows Bitpanda, which is also heavily growing in Germany, but not only there. So yeah, Austria is maybe not always number one on the global startup landscape, but certainly developing in the right direction. And I'm happy to be part of this journey, maybe assisting one or the other company that is looking into this lovely alpine country.
Pretty good closing words for everybody who'd like to learn more. We link your LinkedIn profile as well as ABBA down here in the show notes, so all the people can learn more, as well as work in Austria, a link to Linz, to Steiermark, and co-working spaces in Vienna, and so on and so forth. Hope to have you back pretty soon, Jan.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure was all mine. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's all, folks. Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.